Hey there! Welcome to Middle Age Crazy, the show that proves being an adult doesn't have to suck. With your host, Chuck T.
Hey there, what's going on? It's the Middle Age Crazy Podcast, the show that proves being an adult does not have to suck. I'm your host, Chuck T. Thanks for tuning in. We're here on the 1st and 15th of every month, and we're here to help interesting people tell their incredible stories. And speaking of interesting and incredible, big thanks to my wife, Talisha, for joining us last time. What started as a simple conversation about COVID-19 and quarantine quickly spiraled out of control, but it was great. And she was a little bit disappointed nobody's called the hotline and asked for any of her advice that she was offering out there. So don't forget, you can get tips by Talisha if you call in on our hotline, 515-478-3412. And that leads us into the housekeeping. If you need to send an email, middleagecrazypod@gmail. You can find us on social media at middleagepod. Like I said, call the hotline, tell us how we're doing, give your thoughts, tell us if you think we suck, suggest a guest, I don't give a shit. Give us a call, 515-478-3412. And don't forget, if you want some advice from my wife, go for it. And of course, you can find us anywhere you can find podcasts. When in doubt, middleagepod.com. Big show plan today, big show plan. But before we get into the guest, we have another segment of Content Creators Corner. If you remember, we did it a few episodes ago, where it's my opportunity to chat with somebody that creates content, is some sort of an artist, a creator out there on the internet, and give them a little bit of shine, give them a chance to talk and tell you a little bit about what they've got going on. And this time, we're going to be talking to podcaster Jason Fisher. I met the gentleman in a group on Facebook about podcasters, and I was reaching out to see, hey, who wanted to kind of work together, maybe do some cross-promotion, be on each other's shows, stuff like that, and he was the first guy that reached out. So if you want to join us, if you're another podcaster and you'd like to join us for a Content Creators Corner, hit me up with the contact information from the start of the show, or find us on social media at MiddleAgePod. I would love to get you on the show, chat for a few minutes, talk about your show, and hopefully return the favor for me. See how that works? Get me on your show too. But if you're just a content creator and you got a new TV, movie, album, whatever, and you don't have time for a full interview, maybe we can get you on and talk for a few minutes. So let's get to my man Jason Fisher on the Content Creators Corner. Got my man Jason Fisher here for Content Creators Corner. Was excited to get him on. Met him on a podcast group on Facebook. I'm only a group of one or two. I've only joined one or two groups, I should say, on there, and I've been trying to make some connections. And Jason, you've been one of the first people to reach out and wanted to do some work together, so I appreciate it. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Chuck. I appreciate you having me on. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. You intrigued me because you had two different podcasts. One, I think you want to talk about more today, but you had one, I hate to use the word cute or adorable, but it was a really good idea, and I think you should mention it. But we talked on the side, and Jason has a couple podcasts. He has one that focuses on professional career development. Then he has another one he does with his daughter. And I wanted to get him on, give him a platform, give him a chance to tell you guys about his shows so you can go check them out yourself. So, Jason, the floor is yours. Tell us about your podcast.
Yes, I'll tell you the cute one first. And honestly, that's when I tell myself for why she has more downloads than me. It's just more adorable than my other podcast. It's Reading Radio, reading-radio.com. But we read young adult fiction and just kind of review it and talk about it from a father-daughter perspective. It leads to some great conversations. And my daughter loves a lot of the apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic fiction, the end of the world, Maze Runner, Hunger Games, The Girl Who Owned a City, a bunch of those. And it gives us opportunities to talk about what we would do in those situations, how the world should be rebuilt, a lot of that philosophical and political stuff. The other thing that I do that I really like to talk about more, although you can check out the cuter one, is Be Better Tomorrow. I'm all about personal and professional development. So that show is really about digging into why we act the way we do sometimes, how we can improve in different areas. I get experts in various areas. A guy named Ben Hardy, I was really proud to just get last month. He wrote a book called Personality Isn't Permanent, and about how you can develop your personality and change it in the direction you want to change it intentionally over time. And it was a really interesting read. I got to pre-read it, and I gave it to my daughter. She's chewing it up now, so we might actually do that for the show to be our first nonfiction book or something.
Oh, cool. Tell me a little bit about some of the other people you talk to on the show and some topics you like to tackle.
Yeah, so tackle anything that really interests me and I think would be beneficial for folks. So we talk about how to have good conversations. I've talked to people in marketing. I talked to a friend who started her own virtual assistant company. She's now my VA. But I asked her originally, what are things that people don't think about that they could do? And those kind of things, just to say, you know what, I could probably offload some of this stuff that I have a process for, but don't really want to do. I can offload that to somebody else to take care of some of that work for me. So I do some of that stuff with my podcast work. I'm looking to figure out other ways to do it just to make my life a little simpler. I've interviewed folks that are public speakers. I've interviewed folks that are leadership gurus, people that want to talk about intentionality and mindfulness. Just anything we can get our hands on to say, how can we improve just a little bit today, and that little bit incrementally over time will make us into the people we want to be in the future. So the future Jason doesn't hate me as much.
I wouldn't worry about that. You're a pretty cool guy so far. So it's not just an entertaining listen. You'd say it's sharing some best practices, gaining skills, things like that?
Yeah, I try to be as entertaining as possible. Sometimes that's up to my guests as well. But ultimately, it's about trying to find those little ways to get better. And whether it's learning how to think differently about things, learning how to, maybe journal or be intentional about what you do every day, something in this show will help you be better tomorrow. And obviously, that's the name of it. That's the direction we go. It was kind of the show I wanted to listen to because it's the things I wanted to think about it. And, I'm hitting that 40, that middle age area. Yep. And I'm going, I really got to get started making something happen and changing myself so that I can be better tomorrow and stop wasting time.
That's fantastic. Where can the people pick up your show? Where's it at? Where can they hear?
We can get it everywhere. The source is BeBetterTomorrow.com and Be Better Podcast on all the social media.
Excellent. Be Better Podcast at all the social media. Is that what you said?
Yep, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Okay. Gotta do the main ones, right?
Yeah. Everything else you can find is at BeBetterTomorrow.com.
Excellent. I really appreciate your time today for stopping by, chatting really quick, telling us about your show. People, I've checked this show out before. I want you to go check this show out, give him a chance. And anything else on the way out you got to say?
No, I appreciate the time, and I hope everybody who listens finds something in it that they can use to be better tomorrow.
Excellent. Thanks for stopping by, dude. All right, Jason, thanks for stopping by. If you got a few minutes, go check out one of his podcasts. They're both dynamite. Now let's get on to my guest, another old friend of mine. I've known this guy since high school. He's probably one of the smarter guys I know, and actually went into what I would consider a regular kind of job out there. We've been talking to cannabis people, actors, rappers. This guy's a dentist, and boy, does he have some stories. Who wouldn't want to get the ins and the outs of somebody that actually has to put their fingers in somebody else's mouth for a living? So he tells us all about how he got into dentistry, what it takes, his little misstep over in a practice, how he's rebounded and he's kicking some ass, doing lots of cool dental work, and he's a great storyteller. So let's talk to my old pal, Scott Lopshire.
I am Scott Lopshire. I am 42 years old. I am a general dentist. I'm originally from the Davenport area and now live in Cedar Rapids.
Let's get the show going. We're going to talk the wild world of dentistry on the episode today. Call up an old school buddy of mine that I've known for quite a few years. He's the only guy I know that gets paid money for sticking his hands in other people's mouths. Scott Lopshire, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Is this the first time anyone's ever asked you to be interviewed about dentistry?
Actually, no. I was actually on KCRG a number of years ago because I was doing some volunteer work, and it kind of got out, and they interviewed me and then the dude I was helping out. So that was for TV, and that kind of blew my mind that I had to be on TV. And I'm awkward enough in real life, but just beyond awkward on TV.
Bummer. I thought I was going to make you a superstar. For the dozens and dozens of people that listen to this show, I thought we were going to make you a superstar.
You might have more after this. I'm sure I'll talk my mom and dad into listening to it, maybe my wife.
Perfect. And then they're going to come back and listen to the other episodes about the rappers and the people in the pot business, I bet, right?
Oh, yeah.
I started this show because it seems like I have this interesting web of people I know from my life, whatever. Most people do something I would consider interesting or something that's worth at least investigating and poking around a bit. Okay, I don't know anybody that's a librarian by any stretch. Nothing against librarians by any means, but I think you're the only person I know that's a dentist. I know a doctor, and I know some lawyers, but dentistry.
Yeah. You
gotta really want to do dentistry. I'm assuming. So We went to college together. I have no idea what you majored in. How did you end up doing dentistry?
Well, when I was at Northern Iowa, I majored in biology and chemistry, and it was kind of like it was more about like what I didn't want to do, which is kind of weird. Then you end up putting your hands in somebody's mouth as something you want to do. But I had knew I wanted to do like something in healthcare, and this is not to disparage other careers or anything like that. It's just some things don't fit the person, and I never wanted to do something I just kind of dreaded. And I job shadowed with physicians, and I kind of looked at like different things like podiatry and eye surgeons and all sorts of stuff like that. And the problem with like I kind of like the physician part of it, but the issue I had with it was just like it was one of those things where it was a lot of guesswork, and a lot of times they didn't really have the means to do a bunch of testing to really figure things out for people. And so it was one of those things, well, let's just treat the symptoms and hope for the best. And that would just drive me just batshit crazy. And and I liked something that was a little more practical. You see, here's the problem. Here's solutions A, B, and C. What best fits the person, and here's what you do to do it. And then, as a background, my dad's a mechanic, and so I grew up helping him and working around stuff on the house. And so you get good with your hands, and so that just it started kind of clicking together that these things kind of lined up. I got to do diagnosing, and then I got to actually get in there and fix something. And I've always really appreciated artists and artistry and stuff like that, whether playing music or trying to draw, which I do horribly bad. But
me too.
But being able to kind of sculpt things and change things was something that kind of appealed to me, and that's something I could get to do on a daily basis. And so they just all these things kind of hit together, and I knew someone that was applying to dental school when I was in undergrad, and I kind of like asked him a little bit here and there, and then I ended up calling up my family dentist, and he was a super cool dude, and he said, why don't you come watch me and for a day, and did that, and then it just kind of all clicked together and applied, and magically got in.
So you make the decision. Obviously, you're going to wait till you get done with your 4-year, and you immediately go to the dentist school right away after UNI?
Yeah, I had the option to leave UNI first, like early. I could have gone right after my junior year because they don't require you to have a 4-year degree. It's one of those kind of unwritten things, but I think they're probably changing. But you had to have a certain number of prerequisites and stuff like that, but it was basically the point that you almost had to have a 4-year degree to fulfill all those things. And so a lot of people don't go straight there, either because of they didn't know what they want to be when they grew up, when they got done with undergrad, or they couldn't get in right away, or they were holding out for a different school. So it's more uncommon to go straight through than to actually be quote-unquote non-traditional.
What's the process like? How do you go about picking a dentistry school?
I wanted something in-state, and there's one choice, and that's University of Iowa. For me, it's a great school. It's highly rated, great facilities, and being in-state, it's a lot cheaper. It's like either half to a third of the price of being out of state or being a private school for it, and it's like 45 minutes away from home for me, and so that was pretty simple. But a lot of times people choose based on either where they can get in, or hey, I want to be someplace warm, or hey, I eventually want to go and specialize in this, and they have that good program there. So it just kind of varies on what you want to do when you get done. And whenever people say that they know exactly what they want to do when they get in there, I'm always a little skeptical about it, because until you've actually done it, how do you know if you really like it or not?
Interesting. So you picked Iowa, and is it just like regular undergrad? Like, here's a handful of my classes. Maybe you got some lab work to do to chop some teeth up or whatever. I mean, is it like just school again, or is it a little more condensed?
It's definitely.
How's it flow?
It's definitely more condensed. You don't really have a choice of like electives or anything like that. You're just given a schedule, and it's more like a really big grade school, because you all go to the same classes together with all the same people for the first couple of years. And so there's 75 people in my dental class when I started, and there was, I think, 72 when we finished, or maybe 74, somewhere in there. I think that we had one or two people that kind of said, "Nah, this isn't for me." But when you first start out, we were taking a lot of the same courses as people becoming physicians, and pharmacy and physical therapy. So we have a lot of like the same advanced like background biochemistry and stuff like that. So we're carving up cadavers with our class, and we're taking biochemistry and pharmacology and really, really, really boring stuff that most humans don't really want to study.
Yeah, I'm already half asleep. But I had no idea you're going to dentistry school and you're cutting shit up, or well, I guess, I mean, because I'm assuming you have to cut a mouth open every once in a while, right?
Yeah. Well, my degree is in a doctorate of surgery. So
that's what I was going to ask you. I was having a massive brain fart here. Is there multiple disciplines to dentistry school?
There's basically two different ones. There is a doctorate of dental medicine, and there's a doctorate of dental surgery. But they used to be a little bit more split off, but they're equivalent now. So if you go see a DMD or a DDS, they're going to do about the same thing. But it usually falls into the things you like to do. Like if you like to extract teeth, then you can do that. If you like to just if you like to do just mostly fillings and crowns and bridges and stuff like that, you can do that. But you can do any of the specialties, but you're just held to the same standard as a specialist if you do those things. So if I go in and place a dental implant, I have to do it just as good as an oral surgeon. If I do orthodontics, I have to do it just as good as an orthodontist. So it just kind of depends on what you like to do and how good at it you are, basically, because it's there's a lot of hand skills and putting all the puzzles and pieces together to get all that stuff done.
Wow. I mean, how long does the school take? All in to be I'm a dentist now. What's up? How long does it take?
After the undergraduate degree, it's 4 basically solid years. And so, and you get kind of some summers the first year and maybe a little bit the second year, but you're basically going, straight through, those 4 years. So you don't really get a summer break like a traditional college where you get a whole summer off and a month off for a Christmas break or anything like that. And a lot of times when you have a break, you're studying for some sort of national board exam. So it's here's some time off, enjoy your studying. And it's
okay.
Yeah, thanks guys.
How long did it take until you were actually messing with some teeth in school? Did you actually, I'm assuming you had to train on real people at one point, right?
Yeah, they, most of the dental schools have what's called a simulation clinic, where they have these mannequin heads, and then it's not quite plastic, but it's a cross between plastic and porcelain. So it cuts and feels a lot like real teeth, and there's this dummy head, and you lean it back, and there's suction and hand pieces and all that stuff like you have in a traditional sense. So you're kind of learning on that, and you're kind of doing the physical things fixing cavities and shaping teeth for crowns and stuff like that. but you're also doing the lab work along with it too, because they want you to learn how to do that lab work so you understand if something's wrong, you kind of have an idea of what's going wrong with it. But your first year, at the very, very end of the year, you do a couple cleanings on people. Mm-hmm. And so it's usually your classmates first, and then you're the guinea pig too. And so yeah.
You guys got to just take turn cleaning each other's teeth?
Yeah. Oh. Well, then you have to play guinea pigs where you start IVs on each other, and you're getting each other numb and stuff like that too.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like we were saying before we started all this, I am just so not a fan of the dentist. I couldn't imagine having to like voluntarily all right, it's my turn, clean my teeth, yo. Oh, wow. Okay. That's intense. But hey, at least, I mean, you got to know what you're going through, right?
Yeah.
That makes total sense. When you're wrapping up with the school end of things, what do you do? How do you line in your next move? Do you immediately say, I want to open my own practice? I need to go work for somebody? What's the first logical move? Or what's the first thing you did, at least, I should say?
Well, I was dumb. And I said, I'm ready to own a business. I've never done this before. Let's spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a business I don't know how to run. And I just know how to work on teeth, and I do it really slowly because I'm brand new to it. And
it seems like a fantastic plan.
Yeah, this was a brilliant move, and I bought a practice in Moline, and I bought it with a classmate of mine, and I don't want to get sued, but it didn't work out. Let's just end it like that.
Okay, that's fine.
So it just didn't work out. We were buying a business and running a business with someone is like having a marriage. And so, so I'm at a point in life that I can probably say I've been divorced twice. So I left that business. I've been divorced one other time, and that was a relationship type marriage area. But yeah, that was a rude awakening when you get out in the real world, and then you have a meeting sometime and like, hey, this isn't working out, and you're like, oh, okay, well, it's time to move on and do something else.
Wow! So right out of the box, the opening business wasn't was it you and homeboy didn't get along together, or was the business just not happening? Was it a little bit of everything? What was going wrong?
Well, the business was going okay. It wasn't going spectacular. We were making money. Not as much as we probably should, but we were making money, and we started like squabbling about stupid shit.
Okay.
And she just ended up being a different person I thought that she was when we started working together. And so that's kind of tough when you think you're gonna both work one way together, and you're gonna be both all in and roll up your sleeves and do stuff, and when you feel like you're doing a tad more than the other person all the time, and then you're still both getting paid the same, there starts to get resentment and shit like that. And so, so it just didn't work out, and I don't think we've talked since we sold the practice. Let's put it that way.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
How long did you guys have a practice together?
It was about 3.5, almost 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so right out of the box, you decided to open your own practice. Besides learning how to run a business on your own and going into business with somebody that ended up kind of blowing up, what are some other of the, I guess, tough lessons you learned right out of the box as far as opening a dentistry practice?
Well, it becomes hard to really trust what people say, because sometimes what people tell you isn't exactly the truth. It's their perception of the truth. And so, hey, you always get, this other dentist did this to me, and the XYZ, and they're telling you this story, and when you first get out of school, you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, you're just nodding up and down like, I get it, yeah. And then you just find out, like, you call that other person, and it's like, well, I thought they did really good work, and yada, yada, yada. And then you find out that this person didn't even do that, and they didn't even work on this person. So it's one of those things you have to start putting a filter on everything, because you have to kind of figure out, in somewhere that lies a truth someplace. And so that's kind of hard at first, is just learning how to kind of read people. And, you have to kind of find out that sometimes people always aren't going to be completely honest with you. And that gets kind of tricky sometimes if you're going to do surgery on someone and they're telling you that, I'm not on any medications at all. There's no restrictions on me doing anything. And then you start in on something like, hey, well, I'm allergic to all this stuff that you're doing. And they're like, this is information I needed like 20 minutes ago.
I can just imagine, because this is going to sound bad, but in my opinion, the general public seems to be lazy about a lot of stuff. And so I could imagine, I don't want to write down all the stuff that I'm allergic to. Interesting. Did you ever have anyone right out of the box where you start working with a client and you're like, this whole thing was a mistake, I should not even be doing this? Did you experience that at all?
Yeah. I mean, in the profession, we call them red flag people, red flag patients, where there's certain things that just kind of, after you've been doing this for a while, it make your ears kind of perk up, and then you kind of start thinking, this maybe we need to kind of take a step back from here. Like people that say they have cash in their pocket and they want all this stuff done and they want it done today, and then you go to do the work, and then, here's how much it is. And like, oh, well, I don't have that. I just thought you would bill me. And it's like, well,
what?
Yeah. I mean, it's sometimes it's kind of crazy. Or, hey, this is, I got hurt at work and this is going to be work insurance is going to pay for this, workman's comp, and go ahead and do it. And I got okayed by it. And then here's the phone number, the person approved. And then you call them and you find out it was just their buddy on the phone.
Shut up. You're fucking, really?
Yeah,
people do that sort of shit?
Yeah. I mean, there's people that, this didn't happen to me personally, but it happened to me with someone I'm working with. This person came in with your insurance card and all this stuff, and didn't have their driver's license on them, which when we first got out of school, they didn't really recommend that you take a copy of that. Now we do. But this person had all the information, all the numbers, all the Social Security numbers and all that stuff, and had a bunch of work done. And then we find out that it was identity theft, and they were getting all this dental work done on this dude's insurance. So,
really?
Yeah, it's like, well, identity theft goes to your dental insurance too. So everybody out there, hide your insurance cards. Don't let people see them. Let your doctors and physicians take copies of them, and that's it. That's it.
Dude, that's nuts. One, I just found today, a coworker of mine has an identity issue because someone filed an unemployment claim on them today, and obviously he's still working. Yeah. But I never would have thought of trying to fraudulently get dental work done.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So how often have you got somebody that's tried to kind of bamboozle you like that? Is that just like a rare occurrence, or are people, or like how often are people, I hate to use the term shady, but I could see why. I could see people coming in and being like, they need something done. Obviously, might not have all the money, which is totally understandable. Yeah. But, oh man.
It doesn't happen that much anymore because like now when people come in, we ask, we take a copy of their ID and we check their ID against, them, and, so they have to have 2 forms of ID with them now. And so that makes it tougher for them to kind of fake now. So it's got a little bit easier now, and a lot of companies are being a little bit tighter, like HRs or companies are being tighter with that information. So we see a little bit less of it now, but as technology gets better, hopefully that gets better too, and it gets less and less. But I think more now that, most people in the profession are like, so they're expecting some sort of payment at time of service. If, insurance is going to cover part of it, we know that there's not going to cover part of it. We ask for a portion of that when we start rolling on stuff, especially stuff that, there's going to be like a lab bill with it, like a crown or something like that. But sometimes you're just going to eat some of that stuff, and, it happens, and you just kind of roll with it.
Now I kind of feel like an asshole because I used to complain that somewhere along the lines it went from I went to the dentist, all right, I'll get my bill, to pay me, motherfucker, before you leave. and I missed the memo on when that happened. And like I had a couple interesting encounters with my dentist in Minnesota after I had like some major surgery and I could barely even like function. I was surprised they let me walk out the door, let alone they're like, hey, this insurance, blah, 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 money, give us, I guess that would make sense then.
Yeah, I think that
because if
it's one of those things that more places are trying to do that. And sometimes people would kind of get themselves in trouble. They would get too much stuff done and like, oh shit, I didn't realize it was going to be that much. And then they're kind of like stuck. And so that's why we try to do it at each appointment. So, that, hey, the finances aren't going to be there if I do this next step. So let's go ahead and postpone that for a little bit. So, but part of it too is there's a lot of businesses now, they're tightening their belts and they don't want to have to generate accounts receivable and stuff like that, because that for a small business, that's a huge pain.
No, that makes sense. Because, dude, I just pulled a classic me one time at the dentist office where I forgot what I had done. Like I have a lot of cavities. I've had a root canal. I've just been terrible with my teeth, right? Whatever. I forgot what the situation was, but I was in bad shape when I was leaving, and it was like right when I started with this new place, and they were charging me money, and I'm like, and I wasn't exactly sure on how they were getting the figure from, and I'm like, so you're taking some from me now just to make sure you're gonna get something insurance doesn't cover, blah blah. And they're like, yeah, and I go, but what if I give you too much? And they're like, well, we'll give you some back, and I go, okay, so I'm supposed to trust you to give me money back, but you never trusted me to give you the pay to the bill down the road. I go, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
And I distinctly remember the woman go, well, you kind of got me there, but this is how we do it, so you got to pay me.
Yeah, it's true both ways. I understand that. Oh, I think that
now I get it, though. Yeah. I kind of feel like a dick because they were nice people.
Yeah, but I think that we tend to like, hey, if you've been with a patient, like if they've been a patient with you for a long time, you're more than likely just to bill them instead of someone that's like newer to your practice. You have to build trust both ways that way, I guess.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. How long, did you pull anybody's teeth in college or in school, or did you have to pull your first real tooth on the job?
No, I did a lot of extractions in school. I mean,
okay.
See, before I went to dental school, I got in, and then it's like, well, I think I'm pretty sure this is what I want to do. And over one of the summers in undergrad, I got a job offer to be a dental assistant at an oral surgery clinic. It's one in Moline. And I was like, well, I better do that. And so I went and helped these oral surgeons take out wisdom teeth every day all summer. And I helped them. They did like trauma surgeries. Like some dude was kind of like drunked up, and he was in his pickup, and he ran into the back of a dump truck, and he went to the windshield, and the dump truck won.
Jesus.
So I had to help. I went to the OR with them, and they reset his nose, and they had to wire his jaw shut because it was broken in a couple places. And so when you're doing that, you get to see all that stuff firsthand. And so that's when I kind of saw them doing all that stuff. And when you see something, it's much easier to learn how to do it. And so when I got to dental school, I felt a lot more comfortable than a lot of folks in doing that. I've always liked to get in there and just get started on things. And so they have you try really, really simple ones first, and then they kind of let you, once you have a few things under your belt, then they have you, well, let's try this one that's a little bit tougher. And then you have people kind of looking over your shoulder when you're doing that. And then when you get pretty comfortable with it, they kind of let you do your own thing. And so whenever you don't have a patient, you can go and take care of emergencies and stuff like that. And I always made sure to go do that. It's like, I might as well get as much practice now. I'm paying for it anyway. So
yeah. Let me ask you this, because in the entire process of everything dentist wise, the worst thing for me is when they have to do something major, that needle going into my mouth, okay, into the roof of my mouth or the base or whatever.
Yeah.
Did that take any getting used to, actually doing that to people? Because that seems like that would be, it sucks receiving, but it seems like it'd be weird giving it to someone too.
It really does when you first start doing it. One, you're fucking nervous as hell. You're like, holy shit, I'm going to stick a needle in somebody and try to get them numb. Because, I mean, some of the stuff you're going based on feel and anatomical landmarks. And like, you're going to put this right here. And you're trying not to do any damage while you're doing it. And you're trying to do it in a way that isn't going to freaking kill this person, like from pain. So it's when you first start doing it, you notice, hey, I'm holding my breath like crazy and I'm tense and all that stuff. And you have to kind of learn to relax and breathe and, kind of gather yourself and do it. So you're not going to freak yourself out later on. I mean, all that stress is hard on you. And so, I mean, I have to do this for at least, 25 years. I want to be able to do it and not be all shriveled up old man when I get done. But yeah, you have to like prepare yourself and you have to breathe. And you're not the only one in the world that hates this. And so, over the years, you try to develop techniques so people feel it less and less, and do it as gently as possible. Because the more gentle and slow you can do it, it's you're not going to rip up tissue and have it hurt more. And so, it's really key to really honing your craft and making sure people are as comfortable as possible. And part of that is just like the psychology of it too. Talking to people and trying to take their mind off it and distracting them. And doing all those things to make them comfortable. And you have to project, confidence too. You don't want to seem cocky, but you want to show people that, hey, I know what the fuck I'm doing here. You're in good hands. And so people that go into it and they're like shaking and, oh, this is the first time I'm doing this. And it doesn't really instill confidence, and you're going to scare the shit out of people.
I'd be like, then get the fuck away.
Yeah, exactly.
Practice on someone else.
I mean, people can tell if you're nervous doing stuff, and people can tell if you don't feel comfortable doing it. So even if you don't feel comfortable when you first start out doing it, you got to project that you do.
Fake it.
So yeah, it's tough at first.
Do you have any particular stories maybe of doing that, or maybe it didn't work out as well as you planned?
There's always a few things like, you get the people that people live on their phones now. And I've had people like, I'm doing something intricate and, pretty, tissue sensitive, and, their phone rings and they're trying to answer the phone and talk when you have this, you're trying to get them numb. And it's like,
are you kidding?
Yeah. So, but I mean, you have lots of things that happen in this profession. You see, if you can imagine it, it's probably happened. I mean, I've had patients that, they came in and they had knocked a crown off, and you're like, oh, okay, can I have it? And it was a very shapely woman, and she pulls her shirt over to the side and starts digging in her bra, and she's digging in there, and no, it's not on that side, and it's on this side, and she finally gets it, and there's like a ketchup packet in there, and like her phone and her wallet, and I think there was like a package of ranch, and I mean, it's like, Jesus Christ. So so that was the cleavage crown lady, which I also called
cleavage crown.
Yeah, titty crown lady, and so that was interesting. And then we had a kid in school. He was a couple years younger than me in dental school, and he had a crown on one of his front teeth. And they're out playing basketball one day, and he took an elbow to the face, and it must have hit it just right. So his crown popped off, and he swallowed it. And so, yeah. And so they take him to school and like, hey, you when you're in school, it's pretty cheap. I mean, for you to have dental work done as a student. And so typically you just got to pay the lab bill. Someone will do it for you.
Okay.
And so he's like, I'm a student. I'm fucking broke. And so he found his crown later on. So he dug through his poop and he cleaned it off, and they ran it through a steam sterilizer a couple times. And so from then on in school, he was known as Poop Tooth.
Well, duh.
Yeah. So we kept on saying, I think that shade of that crown's a little brown.
Poop Tooth. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That's fucking funny.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I guess I'm assuming a common problem, issue, if you will, has to be your client's breath, right? I mean,
it can be. It really.
How do you deal with shitty breath?
It usually, like a lot of times, it's the hygienists that take the brunt of that, because all my new patients, they get their X-rays, and the hygienist gets them all cleaned up, and then I come over and save the day. Like, hey, things are pretty good. Looks like I got you cleaned up, and you need a couple cavities, or that wisdom tooth needs to come out. So usually when it gets to me, it's not that bad, but every once in a while it's not good. And I don't know what it is with me, but I don't have a very good sense of smell. And maybe that's just, I was just meant to be in this profession, because things don't usually bother me. For me, what's the worst is if someone is like a heavy smoker. I mean, like, that's one of the food groups is scotch and cigarettes. And it's usually someone that's pretty poor in health, and you have to take out a lot of teeth. And between like the smell of like blood plus mixed in with that nicotine tobacco smell, that's pretty bad. Because I usually get a lot of bacteria in there too. And so the bacteria and its byproducts plus that, it makes for a candle that they probably won't make at Bed Bath & Beyond. So that's the one that usually gets me. But I don't really see that many of those patients anymore. Most of my patients where I'm at now they're in really good shape. But
man, you're just making me feel like an asshole all the way across the board. Because, I used to be a big-time smoker. I'd always have a Mountain Dew and a cigarette on my way to the dentist's office. I didn't give a fuck.
Well, I mean,
but
it was like, this smells more like they smoked a pack at a time. It's like they just cut off the end of the pack and just lit it like with a torch, and they're just in flavor country, and it's just a big damn country.
Ugh, that's creeping me out.
Yeah.
Nastiness.
Yeah, that's really bad.
How about putting in root canals? I had one root canal done. I think I lucked out. I was in Vegas over a New Year's.
Ooh.
And the tooth I had, it hurt a lot, but essentially the nerve of my tooth just died while I was in the middle of Vegas, right?
Yeah.
And so when they gave me a root canal, it wasn't, I guess, that as big of a deal or something, but what's it like doing, because the root canal, I want to make sure I understand it. It was a while, I don't remember. I mean, that's when you have to like essentially shave down the tooth to a certain shape, right? And put something on top of it to take the place of a real fucked up tooth, correct?
Oh, that's like the crown portion of it that goes over afterwards. The actual root canal therapy is like when you get the person numb and you take out the blood vessels and the nerves inside the tooth. And
oh shit, okay.
So you're taking out that nerve tissue in there, and it's inflamed and infected, and so you remove that and you clean and shape inside there. And so those tend to be some of the more intricate work that we do, because I mean, the canals sometimes can be pretty hard to find, and sometimes they're really small and spindly, and so you're trying to clean that out with these they're called files. And so you're just basically cleaning and shaping that and disinfecting inside that. And so that's one of the more complicated things we do. And then I used to try to do all of them. So I think that I was trying to be the man, and over time, and I had good outcomes, and but I was really stressing myself out, and so I started just doing the ones that were a little bit simpler, and doing the ones where the patients were really easygoing, and leaving the really, really tough ones to my friends that endodontists. But yeah, those are complicated, but it just takes a lot of reps to do those and do them really well. And you have to have the right equipment too.
I could just imagine it just feels like there'd be a lot of pressure, because it's like, if I screw up at my job, it's probably going to cost somebody some money.
Yeah.
It's not going to cost somebody a part of their body.
Yeah. Well, it's money, and you hate to send someone out and have them be in a lot of pain afterwards because you just feel like an ass. So yeah, it's it's one of those things that when you leave at the end of the day, you got to leave it at the office. I think a lot of people that have problems in the profession I'm in, which is pretty high suicide rate.
I was about to ask. I heard that. Is that true?
It's true. Yeah.
I wonder. Do you have a theory?
I think it's just related to, we tend to be really obsessive compulsive and really detail oriented. So it's like you think about, oh, I didn't get the shade of that tooth colored filling just right, or hey, that root canal is really tough on that person, and it's just like going back to like numbing people up and holding your breath and getting all anxious about it. And it's like you don't. Some people think that nothing they do is ever good enough, and then you go into a room and you meet a patient, they automatically tell you that they hate you. And so,
sweet.
So some people that gets to them. To me, it's like I just try to let it roll off. I mean, I just know that when people are in my office, if they're really nervous, they're not at their best that day, and I just tell them, hey, I understand. I don't like to have work done either, so I just try to make them comfortable and hopefully change their mind about it.
I can't really imagine what it's like. And your job is to work with people that don't want to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of an interesting dynamic.
Yeah. It is. That is one of the tough parts, but it's really then rewarding when people go from shaking in the chair to you get them back a couple of times as do, because they usually do a lot of work, and you get them to where they tell me, what, hey, that really wasn't that bad. I don't mind coming in now. So when people tell you that, then that makes some of that stuff go away. It doesn't make all of it go away, but it definitely makes you feel better.
So as far as now your setup goes, because we were talking, you recently moved to the Cedar Rapids, Iowa area. Mm-hmm. What's the situation now? Is it another deal where you have your own practice? Are you partnered with someone, working with someone, or for someone? What's the scenario this time?
Well, I'm working for, there's a group that I work for as an associate, and then eventually if, all the stars align, possibly we can do some sort of partnership where I kind of have a piece of the office that I own, but that just kind of depends on if everything works out for everybody. So right now I have kind of they let me run the office a lot of how I want to run it and give me that freedom because, kind of a past history of success. And so they've kind of let me run the show to a certain extent. I mean, there's certain things that they ultimately make the decision, but I don't have to do the weird stuff like payroll and hiring and firing people and making sure that the bills are getting paid and wondering about, well, this composite is, $20 cheaper, so we should do that one instead. So I get to do more of the dentistry and then help out where I want. And then when I leave for the day, I get to just be Scott and not worry about, are the bills getting paid and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of, I'm more of a clinical guy than an office guy.
All right, coolness. And we're kind of wrapping it up here. We're getting towards the tail end. So I have a handful of just random questions I'm just going to kind of start tossing your way if you're cool with it.
Sure, go for it.
I've heard a lot of theories,
All right.
or at least I've asked a lot of dentists. I don't know what to believe. I've known you for a long time, so I'll trust you. When I'm getting a filling done, why does it smell like burnt hair?
Well, when you're drilling out a tooth, we try to have the water and air turned up as cold as we can get it to keep the tooth cooled out. But essentially, when you're drilling stuff, you're creating friction, and sometimes it's going to create that smell because you're basically grinding on tooth and it's heating up. And so that the enamel of the tooth, when you get it to a certain temperature, it starts to kind of smell. So like even if you drilled in wood, like a really hard wood with your drill at home, you'll see it start to smoke a little bit, and then you can smell the wood kind of warm up a little bit. So you're smelling that warmth and the heat, and then it's aerosolizing it, getting in the air.
Because I'll tell you, man, at least for me, there's nothing worse than the whiff of that when you fuckers are getting in there.
Yeah.
And just like, I'm like, oh my God, that smells so bad.
Yeah.
Okay, well that makes sense. Yeah. In pop culture, movies or television, who's your favorite dentist character out there?
It's kind of a tie. The Steve Martin one from Little Shop.
I was hoping you were going to say that.
I mean, that's the classic one. But one of the comedy specials that they always put up, and they probably don't do it anymore because it's Bill Cosby, but his whole bit about going to the dentist and he's numb and he's...
My bottom lip is on the floor.
Yeah, so that one's just the character from that. And then there's some lame-ass date movie. Oh, God. Ryan Reynolds is in it, and he's trying to get Amy Smart, his girlfriend from his past, and his best friend is a dentist there.
Just Friends.
That's it. And then that fucking dirty-ass dentist in that movie just cracks me up every time. And then you see it in so many movies, and there's a lot of dentists that collect all those movies that the goofy dentists are in. Steve Martin's in another movie where he's a dentist, and it's called Novocaine, and that one's good. That one's kind of like really dark. That one's good. And then there's one called The Secret Lives of Dentists, and if you can't find it, let me know, and I will send you a copy of the DVD. It is a
Secret Life of Dennis.
Yes, and Dennis Leary's in it, and he is awesome in it. So,
I love Dennis Leary.
Yeah. So that one is cringeworthy too. So, but most of all the ones where the dentists are in the movie, they're pretty cringeworthy, and I think there's even a Dane Cook movie where he's a dentist, and that one.
Oh, fuck that.
Yeah, that one's pretty.
I don't do Dane Cook.
Yeah, it's like, I think is he still alive, or did he just die when 2000s ended?
I think he might have just might have vanished into the night. Who knows?
Yeah, there's one. I think Jessica Alba's in that one too. So you can tell
that's a shame.
Yeah, you can tell that when you do this, you kind of get. I'm a movie guy anyway, but just all the dentist movies that have. And we're always portrayed as like this goofy, nerdy guy. But, it's true, though. I think that typecasting's correct.
All right. That's cool.
Yeah.
Me personally, if I have to pick my favorite dentist character in film or television, I would have to do Tim Whatley from Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Are you a Seinfeld guy at all?
Yeah, Bryan Cranston. He's if I could have someone play my life, it would be him. He's an excellent actor. So.
Because, dude, there's a couple good episodes, but the one where where he has the adults only dentist office and they start having pornography, they have dirty magazines in the lobby.
Yeah,
that was fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh man,
just don't be
don't
be an anti-dentite, I guess. And
yes, do not be an anti-dentite. Classic. God, how can I put this? As far as the people I've talked to, I don't want to say you have one of the more normal professions, because I wouldn't say that because it takes a lot of work to do it. But obviously, you know, me and my interests, I'm connected to a lot of entertainment and stuff like that. And so normally this is where we're going to be, hey, promote anything you got coming up, talk about what you got going on in the future. So I don't know if you want to shout out about some bridges or crowns you got coming up, or maybe just give some people some dental advice. It's your call, but we're wrapping up here.
All right.
Since I'm pretty sure HIPAA would prevent you from saying, hey, come and check out Mrs. Leibowitz, root canal next week. So, what do you got to say on behalf of dentists out there? What do you got to say?
I just think people just need to know we're just normal guys and gals too. We're just trying to do our job and help people out, and that's corny, but but we really are just trying to help. I think the biggest thing I could say for a plug for people is, if you see people out there like with ad grills and stuff like that, some of those people, they're kind of set up for failure. Maybe parents didn't help them out with that, or parents didn't know how to help take care of their kids and stuff like that. So I would just tell people, sometimes those people had problems, maybe that substance abuse, problems or stuff like that, or they just didn't get the care when they're younger. So try not to judge those folks, and because, it ends up being pretty pricey. And if they're already on a kind of the fringe of society, that's really hard for them. And so that's why, if there's other dentists out there, I always encourage them to step up and, try to do some volunteer work, maybe they don't have to do it, organized, but maybe take a couple patients every year and just say, hey, this is on me. Because anything we can do to help out, like our friends, and, maybe that gives them the courage to go out and get that job or that promotion and feel better about themselves. And I'm all for that. So there's also things that people can donate to, like the United Way or to the VA and stuff like that, where people really need dental care and they can get it through that. And there's also free dental clinics in the areas, and they could always use help for supplies because they're expensive. So all those things are out there, and if people want to help, they can just do a Google search and look like for free medical and dental clinics. And if they can just help out a little bit on that, we're all on this earth together, and there's too much division right now. It'd just be, good to help out, wherever we can.
Well, shit, I want to end on a high note. Yeah. That was cool. Yeah. So, excellent. Thanks for joining us today. And going forward, you're going to be my on-hand dental expert. Okay. So, if anyone has any dental needs, call the show. Maybe we can help you out. Whatever. I charge a little more than Scott does. Okay. But, dude, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Thanks for joining us, okay?
All right. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Middle Age Crazy, the show that proves being an adult doesn't have to suck. Brought to you by moonsaltmusic.info. Underground and independent hip-hop for the old heads. Free downloads available now. All show inquiries can be sent to middleagecrazypod@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Middle Age Pod. Call us at 515-478-3412. Ask for Janice. Middle Age Crazy is a Greg Valentine and Clarence J. Washington production.